Hi, welcome back. On this little film I'm just going to show you putting together one of these Malifaux figures from it arriving in the post to getting it painted. So these come in these little plastic boxes. Go a bit careful though, because you're going to have to glue some small components together. Okay, so this is what comes in the box. So this is 30mm, and what have we got here? So this is the Malifaux, and this is her whip. What do they call it? Barbed whip. So these are your stack cards. Alright, so we're going to sleeve this, keep it for our gameplay. That's just packaging that can get thrown with this. And we're left with this to tidy up. So the first thing I like to do is get it ready, get rid of all these little extra bits here. Sometimes you need to cut the base down a little bit so it fits in the slot, but this one's good. It's quite small. That's good to go. This one's going to be a little bit more delicate. Actually, she's got we've got an arm on here as well, so there's two pieces. Got the ball whip here and an arm. We've got to get rid of all this surplus stuff. Just be gentle, take your time. Tidy this up. You want a nice clean surface for gluing, you see. Okay, we're all done. Let's get rid of this rubbish, and we're ready to go. Now the next question is, do we base it first and then stick the bits on, or stick the bits on? It kind of depends. I'm gonna glue this one first, I think, and then give it. Don't be in any hurry. That's the secret here. I'm gonna give it a good 4 or 5 hours. I might even leave it till tomorrow. So I'm going to glue this and then come back and base it. So grab some super glue, and man, this stuff is lethal, so be very careful. You want the tiniest little drop, so that's not going to stick. So what I'd like to do is figure out where it's going to go. I get a nice big blob of glue tack. I'm just going to get the tiniest little bit of glue. So there we go. Finally managed to get it done. Like I say, the thing is not to rush it. I think it's got to be more like this. Like she's flicking the whip out the back. So maybe we can blue tack here. Okay, I'm working in this big piece of blue tack. I probably shouldn't be filming this because ideally I'd be checking out around a few swear words now. So cover your ears, kids. Where did I say this wanted to be? Get ready for the swear words. Pretty sure. Yes, indeed. Hi folks, right, welcome back. Here we are then. Let's unravel this lot and see how we're doing. So we're about 4 hours later now. There she is then. Alright, now there's going to be some little gaps here. Now you can fill those if you wish. You can see them really clearly from the back. But when it's all painted up, it'll look great. And that's the next step. But let's get it based up next. This is wood, just white wood filler. Okay. I'm going to put some paper down because I don't want to make a mess. Okay. She looks awesome now, she's all glued up. Great job. Now, this is just me. I'm making this up, so if you want a copy, feel free, but I'm sure there's better ways of doing this. But we're just spreading some wood filler. And the thing about these ones that come with them, they got this little ridge, they got a little indentation. And all you need to do here is fill it. But what you don't want is your fingerprints all over it. But there you go. Okay, so she's going to sit in there nicely. Okay, we just push that in. But what we want to do is understand what we want. I think I just want some kind of, for most of mine I've just been kind of roughing it up a little bit just to make it look like stone, but I mean you could put paving slabs on there, or I don't know, and it's naturally going to kind of look like stone by the time it's all painted up. Alright, so let's leave it like that. These lines here, they're slightly off centre, so you want to put your figure towards the back normally. Okay, and the other thing is, once you've got her in place, kind of try and cover up the metal base so her feet are sitting just on top of the filler. I mean, I'm going to clean up all the bases after, but the more you can get off here now, the better at this stage. She's not going to support herself there, so you do need to find a way to support her. There we go. Based up and ready to paint. In this little section, I'm going to be doing my base coating. Here's Lolito all ready to go. I might smarten up her base a little bit, get rid of some of these marks. And the way I do that is using a little very little sharp screwdriver. So let's do that first. All I want to do is just give it some texture, and you're gonna do this yourselves however you wish. I mean, if you want to put some paving slabs, use straight lines and a straight edge to get that. If you want to make it a little bit more rough, like I'm doing, for more stonework, just use your imaginations, right? Just go with it. Once you're happy, we're ready to go. The other thing is I want to make sure I get all this excess away from her shoes, because there's some good detail in those shoes. Right, as for base coating, all I'm going to need is this is a black paint. I'm going to use that in a moment. I need some white. I'm using Citadel paints, Skull White, a palette, some water, and a brush. So these are my collection of brushes. I think I've got mostly small stuff. So this is Winsor & Newton Series 7. You're looking for a watercolour brush, right? That's what you're looking for. Just find what you can. These are Kolinsky Sable 000 up to I think size 5, but I'm going to use something quite small. I'm going to use a size 2 for this base coating, and I need this water here because I want to thin it out, and I'll show you how thin I make the paint first. I've got an old cork from a bottle of wine or something like that, bottle of, I think this was, I don't know what it was, bottle of sherry or something, some blue tack. I've got some sticky tape on there around the cork to make it stick. Just go a little bit steady when you're fixing this on. but this is going to give you a nice surface to hold on to when you're painting. Okay, let's mix up some white paint. So this skull white, use an older brush. So this is like an older brush that I'm using just to mix up. Grab some white. The reason why I want to thin it is because I want all the fine detail to be preserved. If you put your paint on too thick, then you're going to lose all this fine detail. So I want to water it. I want to water it a little bit. And I'm not using any thinners. I'm just using plain old water. But I don't want to thin it too much. Okay. So it's not going to run. It's not a wash. Okay. Because I don't want it running all over the place. I don't want it dripping off the model. I want it to stick where I put it. But I don't want it so thick that it's going to fill all the detail. All right, so there's my paint mixed up. Okay. Now I've got my size 2, and we're going to get this base coat on, and I'm going to apply it slowly and carefully. This is just my way with this stuff, slowly and carefully. I mean, you may say, well, this poor guy is going to be taking ages doing this, but I think if you do it slowly and carefully and use thinner rather than thicker paint, then alright, it's taking longer, but your results are going to be better at the end of the day. I'm only using this smaller brush just so I can hit all those little nooks and crannies, really. You're making sure that the paint is going on in a nice even layer and not filling any holes with paint. Alright. So I'm going to do this. Keep plying nice and slowly, nice and steadily, go all around, and then come back in a second and see how I've got on. Okay, I'm nearly done. I mean, the thing here is, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there's some really fine detail in here. Like, she's got a belly button, you know, and her eyes are really detailed, and some of the hair is really detailed. I've lost my blue tack holder just for a second, just because I want to get a little bit of a closer handle on some of this finer detail. But all I'm doing here is I've not got any paint on the brush, but I'm making sure that none of this paint has filled any of that detail. So I'm kind of brushing around at the moment. It's just spreading things out, making sure it's a nice even covering. Okay, let's leave it to dry, and we'll come back and we'll put some black wash on there. Hi, welcome back. Right, we're a day later now, and the Lutu is looking real good. We've let the white paint dry, and that's really, really important. You know, I've left it a day later because there's no real point rushing this stuff. If you were to start putting a black wash on before this white was thoroughly dry, you'll just end up with a grey base coat, and you've not got yourself anywhere. So really, really important. Don't rush things. Okay, this is the fun part. So let's crack on and put on this black wash. I'm going to be mixing this up. I'm using, again, Citadel base, Abaddon black, and this is going to be really, really watery. So again, I've got myself some water. This isn't an ideal black, but it's the only one I got. Right? If you've got something that's less grey, a richer black, a deeper black, that will be better. I don't know. I'll have to perhaps invest in some more colours. But what I'm looking for, and I've got some white paper here. Yeah, there we go. I want it nice and watery. Okay. We can always adjust it if it's not perfect, but I want this to run into the cracks. And you can see how this is just going to bring out all this lovely detail. We don't want massive blocks of black, so just use your brush, dab around, get it looking how you want it to look, really. And look at that already. See how the face shines out? You don't want to hide too much detail, but it's going to run. It's going to run into the cracks. So I've gone along a little bit further. I'm just going to keep moving this paint around, letting it run, letting it fill the gaps until I feel happy. You'll notice when I hit this base now, alright, let's just let the paint settle where it wants to settle. You can be quite liberal with the paint here. Just mixing up some more paint here. Just giving it a shade darker, but there you go. I want it so that it's shining through and it's nice and watery. Okay. So you're not leaving massive blobs in here places like here. It's going to collect in places. Just keep, dry your brush out if you need to, and then you can move the paint around a little bit more. And if you just dab out the surface tension there, will pick up some of the big blobs. Make sure you're hitting the spots you want to hit, really, and that they're highlighting, not hiding, and that detail's not being missed. So just keep working it nice and even, take your time till you're happy. Alright, hopefully you can see the way the paint's running. It's going to collect around her feet, so the base is going to start to liven up. Now we've moved on a little while, the low lights are done, that's our black wash done, nicely dried. Now remember, wait, leave it, make sure it's properly dry. The next step is to bring back out those highlights, so no more black, we go back to our white. Now you've got two different choices here. We're going to be doing some dry brushing, and you can get these dry brush paints, and they're really thick. Let me show you. You see, and that's one option, but my preference is to go back to the skull white I used for the base and take it steady. It's a simple process. First thing we want to do is get some paint on our brush and then unload it. And the way I do it is using my hand here as a palette. Now I can feel this, I can feel that it's wet. I'll keep brushing that off until it's dry. And once it's dry, I'm ready to go. Notice this time I'm using a wider brush, so not a pointed brush, but one with a flat, still a watercolour brush, but one with a flat, and there you go, the flat end, not a pointed end, and you can see the scale hopefully, 3/16 of an inch. And all we're doing is brushing lightly over our figure. And we're going to see the highlights starting to reappear. It's a delicate, gentle process. And it's just wonderful to see these features emerging as you highlight. I've moved on a little bit and things are really starting to look sweet. I think I'm nearly done, really. Just keep loading and unloading. I'm not going to recommend you use your hand. I mean, I like to, but especially if you've got sensitive skin, young skin, use a palette. Yeah. But this is the way I do it, right? Nice and gentle. And then once you're happy with the way things are looking, which I think I am, I mean, you can play around for this as long as you want, but you know, make sure you give some attention to the base. So once he's dry, we'll layer on some colours. Okay. So now we're ready to do some colours. I'm not going to show you the whole of this being painted, but I'm just going to show you the method I'm going to use. So I'm going to go back to a smaller brush. This is my Galinsky Sable size 0. And we've got to think about what colours we're going to use. I'm just trying to find the right balance here. Okay, I think we're getting there. I want this to be quite thin. Let's try it on a bit of paper. It's too thick still. I want to see a little bit of this. Yeah, that's about right. That's about right. Okay. And I'm just going to put a tiniest little bit on. And we'll start washing this over her dress. And I want the dark and the light to shine through. Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit thinner because I want to do this as slowly as possible. I don't want the paint running around here. That's probably overloaded the brush a little bit here. So this is it, we're layering on this colour and we're just going to build it up and build it up, letting the light and the dark shine through. Once we're done layering, we can stick some more highlights back on. So all I'm going to do here, I've washed out my brushes. Look after your brushes, that's key. You know, these things aren't cheap. Look after them. But I'm going to use a different brush, I think, for just putting some highlights back on here. I can go back to my old dry brush. Just make sure it's nice and dry. And I'm just going to use this red and this red alone. Okay, so this is my Evil Sun's Scarlet. And I'm not going to need very much. Alright, so just make sure it's nice and dry. I'm hoping this will just pick out some of that detail just a little bit. I'm just going to go over nice and gently. Just grab myself a slightly lighter highlight. My brush is pretty dry, so I'm just going to grab that on there and mix it on the paper. That should be just a shade lighter, but I'll be a bit more sparing with it. Right, so I've worked in this a little bit more, and you can see how the highlights are working. And really I wanted to just show you the technique. The truth is that the colours aren't quite right, because what I've realised is some of this, like here in the midriff, is actually her skin showing through, so this dress should be quite sheer as it goes. So I'm going to put some skin tone back in here, but hopefully you've appreciated the techniques that you can use to give you a nice tone, some highlights, and just some kind of real simple method to layer up a colour. So I'll work on this, and perhaps I'll cut in a finished shot at the end. And here's Lily 2 after a little bit more layering. It's not perfect. I think I've got a little bit more work to do. But, you know, she looks okay. But that's the kind of effect you're looking for. So basically you've got your base coats, you've got your lights and darks, and then you're layering your colour on top. I've put a little bit of silvery gold here on the bullwhip. That's it for now. Join me next time and we'll get stuck into some gameplay. Bye for now.